Hello, beautiful souls. This is James. Welcome to my channel. Today, I wanted to do a follow-up to yesterday's video. And that video was about shifting from 3D consciousness, this idea of separation and polarity, into 5D consciousness, this idea of unity and oneness. And I went into a channeled state yesterday because I had found that lots of times when I can get into my mental body, it can just convolute things. And so if I go into stillness and I go more into a meditative trance state, the words and the energies can just come through much more seamlessly. And this morning, I was able to receive a very clear analogy to share that I really think is going to help even crystallize things, no pun intended, even further. And so they started to share about the idea of the caterpillar and the butterfly. Now, we all know about this. The caterpillar ends up turning into the butterfly, how we can adapt this to our own life, this metamorphosis, this change. But they took me deeper into this analogy. And so the life of a caterpillar is all about feeding itself, adapting, and surviving. That is it. Because it just instinctually knows that it's preparing for this cocoon stage. Doesn't know it's going to turn into a butterfly. It just knows that as part of its own presence and life here on this planet, that is what it does. It's like it goes into this almost like automatic cycle of the caterpillar's life. It just knows to look for food, to adapt to the environment, not get eaten, and survive. And so if we start to apply that to what has led us to this point, that is very much what people have described as this third dimension, where we're in the survival program, this idea of fear, trying to adapt to our environment, how are we going to put food on the table, how are we going to pay for our bills. But if we go deeper into that, the caterpillar is literally doing the legwork, doing all the heavy lifting to lay the foundation for this chrysalis cocoon phase where it turns into the butterfly to spread its wings. And so we start to look at, there's a lot of, within this polarity, I will say, there's a lot of judgments that we can have towards ourselves and towards others. And then we start to see where people are, quote unquote, where they are on their own spiritual journey. And we start to compare. And we start to like, oh, I can't believe that they're still rooted in that belief structure. I can't believe they're still behaving like that. And then someone else might be able to see things more from a butterfly-esque perspective. They're like, oh, I can't believe that they can't see this, or they can't see this more expanded perspective, or how are these souls and we're in these human bodies and we're here to do X, Y, and Z. And then we start to get into a little bit of hierarchy, a bit into righteousness. And it's slippery. It's like a really, sometimes you don't even know you're in it, but you're in it. And we start to judge. Well, we forget that this caterpillar, we forget that our lineage, we forget that all of the energies bringing us here today have been laying this foundation for all of us to go into this metamorphosis, to go into this change. Now, what is so interesting, and I had to look this up, is that now as it changes into the butterfly now can fly, it goes and see things from a more expanded perspective. And it's all about reproduction. That is the goal of the butterfly. It goes and lays these eggs, it lays pollen, and it's there to reproduce, to create a whole new cycle. And that is very much us, is that we begin to realize we have these wings, and it takes time for this butterfly to figure out that it has these wings. And then once it finally turns into the adult butterfly, it has a very short lifespan, but a beautiful one at that. But the whole cycle is so fascinating because the DNA does not change. It is the same DNA. The only thing that changes is that certain aspects of that DNA get activated as it turns into the butterfly, and other aspects get deactivated as it's no longer the caterpillar. And if we begin to look at this as a collective, the collective is the caterpillar and the collective is the butterfly. We are aspects of all of it. The DNA is the same. We are all the same. We come from the same DNA as a collective, as a consciousness, as a divine oneness of all. The only thing that is changing, whether individually within us, is that as we begin to shift and change, certain aspects of our individual DNA gets deactivated and activated as we go through our own cocoon stage, as we go through our own metamorphosis. And just because some of us are able to see things from a little bit more expanded perspective does not mean that we are further along on our journey. It just means that based upon the timing of our own chrysalis and our own expansion, it was time for us to spread our wings. But that doesn't take away the hard work and the heavy lifting that the caterpillars are out there doing that are still laying the foundations for so many of us to turn into these butterflies and them as well, just at a different phase in time. And time, as we know it here in this third dimension, is just an illusion. And so the idea of someone's ahead or behind or higher or lower is not true. It is only true if you believe it to be in this dimension. And so you live in that state of consciousness. But as you move out and you zoom out, you see that things are being created and destroyed, collapsing and expanding like snaps of a finger, and that we are all helping each other at different stages of this journey. And so I thought that was such a wonderful analogy. And I'd never really looked into the butterfly and the caterpillar. I didn't know they share. I intuitively should know that they had the same DNA, but the idea of how it activates and deactivates as it goes through these different stages. And then we begin to look at ourselves. And then we start to have a little bit more compassion for ourselves because we are multidimensional beings. And so it's not so binary like that, where all of a sudden went from the caterpillar to the butterfly. No, we experience aspects of being the caterpillar and the butterfly simultaneously. And that is where a lot of the confusion could come into play, where it's like we start to realize we have these wings, but then we're very rooted in this caterpillar stage. And we're like, oh, I've been the caterpillar for so long. I feel very comfortable here. I don't know if I can fly. I don't know if I have wings. So we start to question it. And that is all a part of the metamorphosis and the change and the shift that takes you to the butterfly. And so it's like, you can't become the butterfly any faster or sooner than you're supposed to. And so we need to give ourselves a little grace and a little patience. And my guides say the word soon all the time. And I promise you, if I ever come back, I want that word to be never to be said again. It's so frustrating because soon, it's like soon when? Soon on your time, soon here, soon within a couple minutes or a couple days. And so I understand, at least for me, the impatience that can happen. But the more we just root into the stillness and we allow the changes to occur, the more we can just enjoy the beauty of this journey, and we can look at others and realize where they are. It doesn't matter if they're more in the caterpillar or the butterfly or in between both. It is all necessary for the whole cycle of life to occur. So I hope that resonates. I would love to hear your thoughts. As an aside, I've got a few spots left for the trance healing and the psychic mediumship sessions that I have for December and a few in January. So if that feels like it's in alignment, the details will be in the link. And for those that are interested, I'm doing a free group session tomorrow on 12/12 at 4 p.m. Pacific on Zoom. We're going to go through an energy transmission. I'm going to do a trance channel where I go and channel a certain energy. I don't know who it's going to be. And there'll be a Q&A session. And then after that, we'll go into more of like a satsang where there's different questions and things. I'll either go into a channeled state or I'll just answer those directly. So that will be in the YouTube description as well. Okay, send you guys lots of love.